Hello and welcome. Please take a seat by the fire. Sit back, relax, and let me tell you a tale. Have you ever heard of the legend of the Wendigo? If you have, you may know something about its cannibalistic nature, of how they used to be people at some point. But there is more to it than it being a simple mindless cannibalistic monster, let me tell you that. No, for one to become such a perverted abomination requires more than the simple consumption of human flesh. It requires one to be cursed. The natives of these lands believe that there are places on this earth that are so ancient they have gained a soul of their own. Spirits of nature, shaped by and constantly altering the land around them. And just like people, these spirits have a mind of their own. Some are good, kind-hearted spirits who wish for their domain to become a beacon of life. Imagine a luscious green forest lake, chittering chipmunks, warm sunshine, and an atmosphere of tranquility. And then, there are those that are, well, the complete opposite. Have you ever felt unwelcome? Let me rephrase that. Have you ever stepped foot in a place that made you feel like you shouldn't be there? Or your whole body is telling you that something isn't right? If that is the case, you may have already had a brush with one of these malicious spirits. When the woods go quiet, no bugs buzzing or birds singing, when a feeling of complete wrongness overtakes you, you know that you are unwanted. But you did not come to me to hear about such simple matters. No, you wanted to know about the spirit of the Wendigo. A vile perversion of nature, a malicious spirit of hate, of hunger, born of conflict, death, and starvation. Their domain tends to be one of despair, hard terrain, or particular history of conflicts long ago, forgotten by the world of today. Thunderous mountain peaks with dark forests where food and supplies are hard to come by and the animals sickly and few in number. Allow me to give you an example. Picture this. You recently became the proud owner of your own homestead. A small cottage deep in the woods. Be it left to you by a deceased relative or bought of your own accord, it really doesn't matter. You move in with your family, determined to build a life for yourselves out on the frontier. Your summer is spent stocking the smokehouse with whatever game you can get your hands on. And you spend ample funds filling your pantry with cans and dry goods to last the coming winter. Selling pelts in the nearest town 3 hours east on horseback, or 5 if you do it by wagon. When the falling leaves of autumn and the cold morning frost of early winter begin to make their presence known, you feel like you and your loved ones are well prepared to face the coming winter. Bunkering down in your cozy cabin until the snow finally melts, you are set free to enjoy the spoils of your labor once again. But when the snow finally begins to cover the wilds around your home in thick sheets of ice and snow, you find yourself woefully unprepared. One morning, you wake up to find your small window completely covered. Feet of snow separate you from the outside, barricading your door and turning your cozy cabin into a frozen prison. Yet you hold firm. Spend the next few days attempting to dig yourself out with little success. Progress is slow, but just before you allow panic to take over, you finally manage to tunnel yourself out. Fresh cold air greets you. A serene silence, only pierced by the freezing winds. Feeling like the worst is behind you, you set out to the smokehouse to restock your dwindling supply of canned goods. Only to find it ransacked. Somehow a large creature, perhaps a mountain lion, a bear, maybe a pack of wolves or coyotes, have managed to find their way into the door. To keep an already long story short, you can imagine what happens next. With your supplies ransacked and the heavy snowfall outside making it impossible for you or your kin to ride to town, you were left at the mercy of winter. Weeks pass without change, and when the final bits of your last horse begin to run out, desperation begins to set in. No matter how strong you think you are, no man can fight off starvation forever. The pain, the desperation, it just gets too much. Watching those you love wither away in front of you, while your own body starts to decay, and there's nothing you can do to stop it, can drive a man mad. And it is at these very moments, when the body withers, the mind is fading, and the soul is weak, that is when the spirit of the Wendigo strikes. It is a nasty business. Many have no memory of the exact moment their soul became forfeit. All they remember is that one day they wake up no longer hungry, but alone. Their hands and faces covered in the blood and gore of those they once held dear. Their lifeless bodies still donning the expression of fear and surprise as they met their excruciating end. Most will take their own life, unable to live with themselves after finding out what they have done, that God can still show mercy somehow. But some believe it was the only way to survive, that they can come back from this, drag themselves from darkness. You continue to consume the remains, sustaining yourself until the snow finally does start to melt. The warm rays of early spring freeing you from your frozen prison. At this stage, you don't look any different. Maybe you look thinner, but besides that, you still believe yourself to be human, and others do too. Making your way back to town, on foot this time since you had to eat your last horse a long time ago, you regain some sense of normality. After hell you have been through, it sure as hell feels better. But that feeling is short-lived, for when you do finally get your hands on that plate of steak and greens you've been longing for since the start of winter, you find it turns to ash in your mouth, making you violently ill. The next few days are spent in sickness as your mind begins to slip. You're unable to sleep. Every time you try, you wake up in a cold sweat, plagued by terrible nightmares and that same growing, unshakable hunger that consumed your mind before. Your body will begin to deteriorate at a fastened pace. Sunken eyes, a gaunt frame, hair loss, and a lack of emotions are early signs of a growing Wendigo. You slowly begin to forget who you are. Names of relatives begin to escape you. Birthdays and the faces of loved ones are far gone too. All while the hunger still grows and gnaws at you like a rabid dog at a bone. Eventually, it becomes too much. You find yourself awake at night, chewing off your own lips in the vain hope to sustain the unbearable hunger. This is usually the point where the townsfolk chase you off, viewing you as a raving madman, unfit to live in society. With every step you take back into those woods, you lose more and more of yourself, of your humanity. Your name, your memories, even the language you speak starts to fade. Your limbs will elongate as your frame stretches out. Your fingers will grow into claws the size of dagger blades, and your features begin to fade. In a matter of days, all that is left of you is a mindless husk. A shell of a man. A monster. One that only knows hunger and pain, preying upon anybody that dares to enter your hunting grounds, tearing them limb from limb, leaving not a single trace. Nothing. Time no longer has any effect on you. You cease to grow old. The only way you will ever cease to exist, to stop the hunger, is, well, to be killed. And to kill a Wendigo is no small feat, for they may have grown gaunt, but they possess a strength unmatched by even the fittest of men. The only ways to kill a Wendigo is, well, either you burn it, you decapitate it, or you vaporize it with a stick of dynamite. Make sure ain't nothing left of them. As you can tell, they ain't the nicest of beings to deal with. Let's hope you never have to face one, and if you do, pray that it kills you quickly.